Our Veterans Tribute today and this hour. As always, brought to you by our man John Basiliga, featuring today the class of senior care in northeastern Pennsylvania. John's Serenity Care Personal Care Community. 4 locations: Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units, Mid-Valley and Kingston. John has a passion for providing the highest quality senior care in this area. And these beautiful personal care homes have been completely renovated inside and out. Check them out. Eugene Cadden. He was 93 when we lost him December 17th. He was born and raised in the Bellevue section of Scranton. Member of St. Patrick's Parish. A U.S. Army veteran of the Korean War. He attended West Scranton High School and later the University of Scranton. He was a co-founder of the great Cadden Brothers Beer Distributors, celebrating 70 years in business, 2026. He also worked for RCA, General Motors, and ICS prior to being elected a district magistrate, a position he held for 24 years. And his wisdom, his calm as a lawyer, I got a chance to be in front of him a couple of times as an arrestee. And a couple fights over that area. Everyone knew him as Uncle Gene, and his kind and generous spirit was obvious to everyone he met. It was. As a magistrate, he judged with empathy and careful consideration of the circumstances. In addition to his beloved wife, he's survived by many dear nieces and nephews he loved as his own. Members of the great Cadden family. Gene Cadden. I called him Judge. Carl Peters of Slocum. We lost him at age 81, December 15th. Born in Slocum Township, he was a graduate of Newport Township High School. Following graduation, he enlisted in the United States Army, where he proudly served us during the Vietnam era. He was honorably discharged in 1967, attaining the rank of SP4. He had a long career as a forklift operator for HPG Mountaintop for 40 years before retiring. These guys that made the lunch pail, went to work, never complained, got it done. He loved flea markets, collecting antiques. He spent time in Titusville, Florida during the winter months. A lifelong member of Slocum United Methodist Church and Slocum Township Fire Company. Preceded in death by his brothers. He's survived by nieces and other family members. Carl Peters. Our veterans this hour, brought to you by our man John Basiliga and his great Serenity Care. Well, the Storm Tracker 16 forecast brought to you by Montage Mountain Resorts. I think weather, I think about Montage. I think about Montage, I think about the weather. And meteorologist Joe Snedeker tells us today mainly sunny with increasing clouds towards evening, high 45. Tonight mostly cloudy, 33. Wednesday cloudy with rain showers changing over to snow by evening. Accumulations of 1 to 3 inches of snow possible on Wednesday, but it'll be 45 degrees. Nice to ski. Thursday, windy and colder with morning snow showers, 25. That's our weather brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. John, Fred, and his Playboy band, Murph says. This date, 1968, they moved up to number 2 with their hit Judy in Disguise with Glasses, and the timeless wisdom of George Carlin describing our idiot left of today. And by the way, on cue, this is one of the trolls. For every one of these bad illegal aliens you name, I can name 1,000 good people that they are protecting. That is so stupid. You've been reduced to the idiocy that George Carlin just talked about. Apparently, that's how you identify yourself. And that may be an answer. See, I've been looking for the answer to this stupidity, this willful ignorance and stupidity. And that may be it. Carlin, I think, caught it. He caught it. And so everything that disagrees with your assumptions becomes an attack that you've got to immediately respond to. Oh, we're going to defend the rapists, the murderers, the sexual predators of children. And by the way, the thing they overlook is the stark reality that the people who are here illegally are here illegally. That's the level of insanity they've descended to. And by the way, if these freedom fighters, like the idiot who got herself killed and her wife, if they cared about the 1,000 good illegals, they would be pushing the criminals to the ICE. That would be, in fact, that would be job one. Guess what, ICE? We're giving you Gilberto Salguero Landaverde, the guy who convicted of 3 homicides. We're giving you him. Let go of these people who are supposedly good. I'll put that in air quotes for the idiots, for the stupid. I'm sorry. The harshness is deserved because people are getting killed and law enforcement is being put in danger trying to get rid of the scum of the earth that either snuck across the border or that the scumbag Biden administration allowed in to walk free. It's insane. So why aren't you then rooting out the criminal illegals so that ICE does in fact leave? Why are you protecting arrested illegal aliens from being turned over from their jail cells to ICE? See, it's all a lie. You're a liar, a disgusting liar. I love that you listen, but you're stupid and you're a disgusting liar who can't stop doing it, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Sad, sad, sad. We'll take a break and be back. Murph tells us that on this date, 1968, January 13, against the advice of Columbia Records, Johnny Cash went to Folsom State Prison in California to record his live album, Live at Folsom Prison. Turned out to be his biggest selling album ever. Murph picked Folsom Prison Blues from that set. Obviously, I could identify with that. And I point this out every time I talk about it. There are videos, if you go to YouTube, of Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison. Hardcore prison in California. And you look at the film and you realize the vast majority of the prisoners are white. Why is that significant? Well, because it's the exact opposite now. If so-called white people, and I say that not mockingly, I say it because nobody is white, but that's another story. It's not even 20% of the population right now. So you've got to look back and say, okay, well, what happened from 1968 until today? Well, of course, the disintegration of the African-American family. And what caused that? Well, that would be the welfare programs. That would be the left-wing lunatic policies. It's not the difference in people. African Americans actually in the 60s were as high a percentage of the population or more than they are now. They weren't the vast majority of the prison population as Latinos and African Americans are now. Why the total reversal? It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with culture, obviously. But it has to do with policy. It has to do with left-wing lunacy. Very important to point it out. And by the way, my cousin Jody points out, Rush Limbaugh, born January 12th, 1951, will do something February 17th. February 17th, the day he died. A sad day for thought in America, for sure. Hey, we don't have much time, but we've got Lorraine.
Okay.
Lorraine from Hazleton, you got a poem for us, honey. We're waiting.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting.
Well, Johnny Cash and the point I had to make, I'm sorry.
Well, you better be, or they'll put you back in prison. You have to write a song.
I wasn't much of a musician. We had some great rappers in prison, though. Well, I played the drums in the prison band. I wasn't completely without talent, but I wasn't. The people in the band were much more talented than I.
Well, you could write a tune to my poem.
All right.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready. This is called I've Got to Be Me.
Okay.
Yeah. When I'm feeling rather lonely and life seems to hand me the blues, I often wonder what it would be like to walk in someone else's shoes. Some people seem to sail through life without a care or any grief. But after reality sets in, that may only be my own belief. How do I know for sure what lies deep within one's soul? Perhaps I'd be rather astonished to find that they haven't reached their goal. I've come to my own conclusion who I really would like to be. Someone who is friendly and compassionate. I finally realized that someone has always been me.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And you did it quickly. So we got it in because, I'm always watching my Picardo Jewelers watch to
Yeah,
determine when I've got to go to the news.
but sometimes Brian lets you let Brian. Well, whatever. You get 2 extra minutes. Could I squeeze something in for a minute from my listening family, friends? Could I squeeze something in?
More?
Huh?
It's 10 o'clock.
Well, geez. Okay. Jeez.
No, I can't.
Well, okay, then other times you go over 2 minutes.
By mistake. Now I'm looking at my watch.
You're no, I'm only teasing. I'm teasing. Okay, Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Well, thank you, Lorraine. Always a pleasure, my dear. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, next time I'm going to squeeze a joke in.
Well, no, don't even try.
Yes, I'm going to try.
I will cut you off immediately as soon as I.
You do that. You do that.
As soon as I detect you trying to tell a joke.
That's it. You do that. That's it. Then you're going to lose your ratings. That's for damn sure.
All right, Lorraine. Thank you, my dear. Well, it's 10:01 on my Picardo Jewelers watch, and I'm telling you, guess what? Valentine's is coming up, and January is a great time for a gift. It really is, and the Picardos are working hard every day to provide it to you. Time for the news with Brian Hughes. We'll be back after that. Brian Kelly, our former U.S. attorney, to talk about the Maduro indictment. We'll be back. great good morning, everyone. It's 10:08. No, I'm sorry. It's 10:09 on my Cordaro Jewelers watch. This beautiful Tuesday, January 13, 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great Serenity Care, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like the veterans we lost last year, but celebrate today thanks to John, like Carl Peters of Slocum, Magistrate Eugene Cadden, Bellevue section of Scranton, Harry White, North Carolina, but he was from Dallas, David Jordan, Laughlin, Dick Wilson, Lidditz, formerly of Elysburg, and Dick Evans, Benton Township. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, after a brief news adjournment, promising you that our commitment to common sense is so profound that we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you seeking to escape the lunacy of the left. Well, Nicolas Maduro, a big fat buffoon who was calling out President Trump just days before, thinking he was in Fortress Venezuela, Fortress Caracas, and telling Trump he didn't have the courage to come down and get him, telling him, come and get me. Well, he got arrested. They grabbed him, and they've brought him to New York, and he's going to stand trial for federal charges. He was actually shocked at the rights that were afforded him, the explanation, the things that were provided him as he'd never seen it before, because you never had that in Venezuela under he or the scumbag who preceded him. Well, we said it's about time we turn to our man, Brian Kelly, a career federal prosecutor in San Diego and in Massachusetts, the District of Massachusetts, culminating his prosecutorial career by being the lead prosecutor for Whitey Bulger and putting him behind bars for what turned out to be a relatively short life in prison. But he's done it all, and he's with us now with the firm, a firm of international renown, Nixon Peabody, based in Boston. Brian, great to have you back. How are you?
Hey, Bob. How you doing down there?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We're in
Good
a lather. We're in a lather as usual.
That's good.
All right. Tell us from whatever starting point you'd like about the Maduro arrest and his legal situation.
All right. Pretty interesting, the whole escapade here. So it looks as though he was first indicted federally charged, that's indicted, back in 2011 with the Obama DOJ.
Wow.
And it was sealed, kept secret. And oftentimes that's done so it gives you the feds a chance to catch the perpetrators. Anyway, it remained sealed until 2020. And then upon his arrest, they did what's called a superseding indictment. The prosecutors go back to the original grand jury, and they basically represent the case and add things. So in this case, they updated it to include drug trafficking and the use of guns up into 2025. So they basically freshened it up, added a few tweaks in the original indictment, and now you've got a 4-count indictment charging 5 people, including Maduro, his wife, his son, and a couple other ne'er-do-wells. And the charges are strong. I mean, if you look at the indictment, it's tons of cocaine. It's very detailed. And they tack on at the end 2 charges about machine guns being used in furtherance of the drug trafficking conspiracy, and they do that because a machine gun charge, if you're convicted of that, is 30 years consecutive to the underlying drug offense. So
a massive enhancement. Yeah.
So to the extent you have any hope of getting out on the drug charge with a lenient sentence, the judge has got to impose 30 more years.
Oh.
So if you get 5 years on the cocaine, well, you got another 30 coming at you. But with the amount of cocaine involved, the federal sentencing guidelines are off the charts. So if he's convicted, he's just going to get launched. So that's the indictment background. It's been in existence for a while. It's one of the rare, I guess, bipartisan DOJ things these days.
Well,
so,
this is, Brian, I appreciate it so much. It's one of the reasons people listen to the show. That's the first I ever heard that he was indicted in 2011, but that it was only unsealed in 20. How about that?
Yeah, and so, that's the backdrop. And for Maduro, he's going to make claims that he thinks can help his defense, that he was, illegally seized, and therefore the federal courts in New York don't have jurisdiction, blah, blah, blah. But his problem is a lot of this stuff was already litigated and basically decided against him when the federal government seized Noriega years ago in Panama. Same sort of scenario, drug trafficking charges were the underlying gist of the case. They seized Noriega, and he brought all these legal challenges to his arrest, jurisdiction in the United States, that sort of thing, and his alleged immunity, which the courts rejected because you don't have immunity to deal drugs. So I think Maduro is in a rough spot legally, and that's the way I see it.
Quite amazing. Now I didn't even notice if they put him in Brooklyn or if they put him in Manhattan, the federal detention.
The Southern District of New York. I don't know where he's actually detained, but the charges are coming. You get the Southern District in Manhattan, and you got the Eastern District in Brooklyn, and the U.S. Attorney there, Clayton. He's very accomplished prosecutor, lawyer. So, and that's historically viewed as a very high-performing office, the Southern District. Oftentimes, the rest of the DOJ joke that they think they're the Department of Justice because oftentimes they decide to do things their way.
Now, have any lawyers been signed up to defend Maduro and his family at this point? And does he have access to any resources to hire a legal team?
Well, I'm sure there's no doubt he had at least an appointed lawyer for his first appearance. Everyone does when they make their first appearance. And I thought I read that there was already some skirmishing about who was going to represent him, that different defense attorneys were vying to do it. So he must have access to some monies. At the end of the indictment, the charge is a forfeiture claim, which is typical. And so basically they, in addition to the charge of trying to put him in jail, they're seeking to forfeit gazillions of dollars based upon his drug trafficking. So, that will be a judgment that comes later, but I don't know if they've seized his assets or what they have done financially to prevent him from using it.
I guess anything they want, because we now control the country.
I guess that's right. I guess that's right.
My word.
So, he's up the creek without a paddle, in my view.
What are the perils of this high a profile trial? You experienced it prosecuting Whitey Bulger. There are perils for the prosecution.
Well, yeah, there is. Well, first of all, the pressure goes up because you have to win. This is not a case where you can lose, nobody knows about it, and, well, you chalk it up to a nice learning experience. No, you got to win this. Otherwise, it's a major embarrassment to DOJ, not to mention you personally. But the problem is some jurors will want to get onto the jury. We had that in Bulger because they were fascinated by the organized crime thing, and they were trying to get on, and they would want to write a book about it. And you don't want those people on your jury because they make themselves the story. That's not their job. It's to hear the evidence and decide what the facts are. And here with Maduro, you may get people who are politicized one way or another who have their own personal agenda, you don't want them on the jury either. You just want them basically deciding, is this a cocaine trafficking conspiracy or not? Is this the use of machine guns in furtherance of that conspiracy or not? So you have to get people who can be fair, but the risk is with such a high-profile case and with all the politicization of the criminal justice system these days, you're going to have people on both sides trying to get on for their own personal reasons. So they got to ferret that out in what's called voir dire. And that's when you're checking the jurors' biases and prejudices when you're picking a jury. And in federal court, unlike state court, the prosecutors and the defense lawyers don't get a lot of time to ask questions. Oftentimes it's the judge who asks the majority of the questions, and oftentimes it's just a survey that you fill out as a juror. And it's hard really to pick up on people's personalities or biases unless you're asking them questions.
Brian Kelly is our guest. He is counsel and partner in Nixon Peabody, an international law firm. But before that, he was a prosecutor in both San Diego and Boston, culminating his career by being the lead prosecutor for Whitey Bulger in an incredibly storied case. Now, Brian, tell us what's next. I mean, procedurally, and we're going to follow this with you, but what it comes next? He's had his initial appearance. What happens now?
So not much is going to happen probably for at least a year. I mean, what happens is, there'll be status hearings, but the government is under an obligation to produce what's called discovery to the defense. Anything that's exculpatory makes it appear the guy's innocent, or any inconsistent statements of their witnesses. And they dump all these documents on the defense. The defense has to analyze them and decide what motions to make to try to get the indictment dismissed. They'll challenge the arrest. They'll challenge the jurisdiction. So all these motions get fought about in this district court. So unlike a lot of state courts, it's got one judge, sticks with that judge, and it goes up and through trial. So you're going to have at least a year of motion battles. Maybe you'll even have some appeals in the middle of the case on some of these legal issues. Probably not. But there'll be a lot of battles legally before there's ever a trial. So you might not get a trial in this case for 18 months.
In the meantime, he's got bail denied, obviously. So
yeah, he's not getting out.
He's in the facility, period.
He's not getting out, right?
He's got to be in protective custody, I'm thinking, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be in general population unless he's got his Trinidad buddies watching him. He'll be in a secure section for sure.
Yeah, quite amazing. Well, hopefully more secure than Jeffrey Epstein, but
Yep.
we're only hoping.
You got to be an optimist, Bob.
Well, Brian Kelly, we appreciate you coming on. We'll do this again as this proceeds. We appreciate any further insights. You let me know, and we'll talk about them.
All right, you take it easy.
All right, our man Brian Kelly, Nixon Peabody.
All right, see you, Bob.
We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Murph says this date, 1969, Elvis began a 10-day recording session which would produce his final #1 hit, Suspicious Minds. The song was completed at American Sound Studios, Memphis, Tennessee. The other time he recorded in Memphis was at Sun Records Studios, 1956. And before that, 1987, when the 7 top New York City mafia bosses were sentenced to 100 years in prison each. I was in prison with Carmine Persico's son, and I remember asking the question. These were tough characters, and not even just physically, mentally. And I asked a guy named John Carnegie, who I became friendly with. He received 55-year sentence, and was tried with John Gotti, was one of John Gotti's crew, labeled John Gotti's hitman. And in fact, one of the reasons he got 55 years was because, first of all, and the lawyers told me this, Gotti wouldn't let anybody plead guilty. So they had to go to trial. And I said to him, John, what went through your mind? Now you're I think he was in his 40s at the time. What went through your mind when you heard 55 years? Now they normally express it in terms of months. So, you just think about how many months he was sentenced to. Is take 50 times 12. I mean, so what, 650 months, something like that? I said, what was your reaction when they read your sentence? And he said, it was just the most surprising thing. He said, well, and if you watch the movie Goodfellas, he was one of the crew robbing the trucks and all that kind of thing. He was a good fella. And he said, they were getting out of hand, we were doing crazy stuff and, they caught us. And that was his reaction. And his public reaction, he said, we paid these lawyers all this money. He says, to get 55 years, I could have paid $400 to Jacoby and Myers. So it's a different mentality. As they were getting 100 years, I just don't think they lost their optimism that they were going to turn this around somehow, pay some price, and move on in life. Quite amazing. Amazing. All right, we'll take a break because we've got a Veterans Tribute to do, and we want to hear from our great sponsors. We'll do the Veterans Tribute. We'll do the weather brought to you by Montage. And then we got a lot more to do. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Our Veterans Tribute. This hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by our friend John Basiliga. Today featuring another one of his great companies, Serenity Care. What's Serenity Care? Well, it is the class of senior care facilities in northeastern Pennsylvania with 4 locations: Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia units at Mid-Valley and Kingston locations. All 4 of these facilities have been completely renovated inside and out, accepting new residents. Serenity Care. David Jordan. We lost him December 3rd at age 83. He was from Laughlin. Born in Wilkes-Barre, the great Parsons section of that city. He was a graduate of James M. Coughlin High School, class of 1960. He served us in the United States Navy from 1960 to 1964. He served aboard the USS Great Sitkin, a participant in the blockade of Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October of '62. After his honorable discharge in 1964, he was employed by a journeyman by International Color Press and Offset Paperback. Until retirement, David was employed for many years by Intermetro Industries in Wilkes-Barre. Remember the Plains American Legion, the Polish American Veterans, and a number of other clubs, including the former Abbott Methodist Church in Parsons. Known for his love of the outdoors, he loved to read as well. He and his wife, the former Mary Ellen McHugh, celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary in August of last year. He cherished his wife and family and lived a life full, enjoying the company of his loved ones. Surviving are his loving wife, Mary Ellen, daughter, granddaughter, and many other family members. David Jordan. Harry White. We lost him December 14th last year. He was 88, living in Concord, North Carolina. Harry lived a full and vibrant life marked by devotion to family, pride in his work, and a generous spirit that touched everyone around him. Born in Dallas, he proudly served this country in the United States Army, which reflected his strong sense of duty and responsibility. After that, he dedicated 29 years of his life to his career as a tool and die maker with IBM. He shared 57 years of marriage with his beloved wife, the late Shirley Jean Rogers White, and together they built a life filled with love, laughter, and countless memories. A man of many passions, Harry was deeply immersed in the world of racing. He began as a drag racer, went on to become a stock car driver, and for 15 years as a stock car team owner, New York and Pennsylvania. He had extensive vegetable gardens, and he generously shared his harvest with neighbors and friends. He cherished life's simple pleasures. Harry White is survived by his children, his grandchildren, and other family members. Harry White, our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Basiliga Serenity Care. The Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. I think weather, I think Montage Mountain. I think Montage Mountain, I think what's the weather? Yep. Today, mainly sunny, increasing clouds towards evening, high 45, almost spring skiing. 37 outside the studios as I speak. Tonight, mostly cloudy down to 33. So a full night of skiing and snow activities on Montage is called for. Wednesday, cloudy with rain showers changing over to snow by evening. Accumulations 1 to 3. 1 to 3 inches of snow possible. 45 degrees Wednesday. Thursday, windy and colder with morning snow showers. High 25. And that's your weather. And when I think weather, I think Montage Mountain. And what could I do up there today? They are playing the audio on Fox of the landmark women's sports cases presented to the Supremes today. You got to hope that common sense governs and says biological men can't play with women in sports. That doesn't mean we're against transgender people. It just means you can't do certain things at certain times, and you're not a girl. Please. Well, that's Elvis Presley. Of course, we heard the vice president before that, concisely responding. Elton John. I apologize. This was his 4th top 10 hit, Murph says. This date, 1973, moving from number 13 to number 9, Crocodile Rock. Bob Cordaro back with you and prepared for anything. Let's go right to our man Clive from Mountaintop. Hi, Clive. How are you, friend?
Good morning, Bob. You know, this mess out in Minneapolis, I don't know where that's headed. You know, I commend ICE for what they do, and they sure don't put up with much, nor can they afford to, or things would get totally out of hand. They have to respond to this in kind and perhaps ratchet it up a little bit.
By the way, just to interrupt you for a moment, in that women's sports case, Ketanji Brown Jackson is questioning the lawyers, and this is the woman who couldn't define what a woman was when asked. Unbelievable. Anyway, back to the point.
Yeah, Jackson is dumb as a rock.
Wow. Yes.
To put it quite bluntly. Anyhow, getting back, Mark Levin on his show has a regular guest, Julian Epstein, who is very well spoken. He's a Democrat consultant or strategist, but he talks like a Republican. And he said
Meaning
something.
He talks normally, which is unusual for Democrat leadership and Democrat operatives at this stage.
Right, exactly. He said something that really was shocking, and I guess that thought has occurred to all of us, and that being his statement was, we may be witnessing the beginning of the end of civilization with everything going on, not just in the United States, Ukraine, Iran, and on and on and on. It never ends.
Yeah.
By the way, wonder how the Ukraine peace deal is going.
It's not going.
It's not, and it never will, as long as this madman and war criminal is in office, Putin. He needs to go one way or another. And the latest salvo was this hypersonic missile into Lviv, which is only 20 miles from the Polish border, to send them a message. And this killing goes on of innocent civilians, and NATO, Europe, EU just continues to wring their hands. This is terrible. What can we do?
Well, it is frightening. And the thing is this, though, Clive, we've always had evil in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't as existential a threat as, say, the Chinese and the Russians, and particularly in a combined fashion because of Joe Biden, as they both are together. But we've always had it. I mean, we play when we do Monday Musics, we didn't start the fire. It's always been burning. And it has. And I think we'll get through this. We'll muddle through humanity for the most part, depending on how much damage. But I'm just so happy to have Trump and his team at the helm of the United States in the midst of this unprecedented unrest.
Oh, absolutely. But Trump, I think, has boxed himself into a corner with this red line that he drew. The U.S. is locked and loaded, and if you kill any protesters in Iran, we're going to do something about it. Well, the killing goes on. It's in the several hundreds. It's not a couple thousand.
He could target, but he could target their special forces who actually control the country's economy. He could control them with some targeted drone attacks or assassinations. He could target their infrastructure and do real damage. And by the way, Israeli intelligence in Iran is maybe better than Iranian intelligence in Iran. So I think we've got the information to do damage. He's rattled the saber. I don't think he's afraid to pull that trigger.
Well, time will tell. I'm surprised he waited this long, frankly.
I don't think the country's ready to go yet, by the way. I don't think this government's ready to go. These things last, when they reach this kind of fever pitch. Remember the last time when the Shah was overthrown, it was about a year of this kind of aggressive protest against his regime before it fell.
Right, and timing is everything. So perhaps Trump is waiting till the time is right. We'll see. Yeah. If he doesn't, with everything that's taken place, his red line has been crossed, at least in my estimation. So if he does nothing, that's not going to be good. It's not going to look good. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm confident they'll do what they need to do. I really am. Completely confident.
And meantime, the killing and bombing of civilians in Ukraine goes on. The killing of Christians in Ukraine goes on. And everybody cowers to this madman and war criminal. I'm just concerned what's going to go on there.
Well, he hasn't responded to carrots or sticks. We'll see, Clive. Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Let's go quickly to Max up in Dixon City. How are you, Max?
I can only imagine what this beginning of the year, like we just had, would be like if we had Biden or Harris and Walz in office.
It is so scary when I think of it. They're basically mentally ill people, non-serious people facing an incredibly serious world. And we got away with it for 4 years, not without serious damage.
No, they did too much damage.
We got away with it without losing the country.
That's true.
That's
a silver lining.
For. Yeah,
that's a silver lining. I mean, right now I feel like I just watched the movie Crying Game because I feel like my government has completely subverted my belief system. They, not the Trump administration, just in general with this Minnesota. Okay. To have Somalians walk out of airports with $1 million in briefcases every day, okay, for $700 million, that's 2 years straight, every day during 23 and 24 under the Biden administration to walk out of airports. When I was getting harassed, I remember coming back from Vegas with cash and just in general that this was an inside job. Michael Franchese, he does a podcast. He's an ex-mobster.
Yep.
He's pretty honest with everything. He said we had the same kind of. Yeah, he said we had a shell game with gas stations. Well, this is a shell game with children's schools and HUD and all. This is like ripping off the taxpayer. And there's no way that the government didn't know about this. You can't just grease one councilman. This is like at such a high level, way beyond organized crime. So for have Minnesota to allow that to happen, okay, this deliberate, and all the hijinks in Minnesota, from George Floyd burning down the cities, to the murder of this woman, Justine Gamont, I believe her name is, and a Somalian police. He was the first Somalian police officer.
And he got 2.5 years to start with. I mentioned this yesterday. He only got 2.5 years for murdering this woman in cold blood.
Right.
But then it was overturned. He's out of prison.
I like that's the whole thing. And this poor woman, Justine, no protests in her favor.
None.
Why? Probably because she's a white woman. And this was a Somalian cop. We have to bring that up because, my God, they use these for their politics. Nobody knows about that.
Nope.
And then what we had in Minnesota was a disgrace, and the leadership is to blame. It's all about leadership, and people still vote for these people. They still vote for them.
Scary stuff.
It's unbelievable.
Max, we got to go, but thank you, man. Always a pleasure. My watch tells me, Ricardo's watch, it's 11:50 or 10:50. Murph lets us know that on this day, 1979, Billy Joel moved up to number 3 with his hit My Life. And I don't know, a guy that I just thought was really just solid, and I think was a good, decent, if not good governor, Douglas Wilder, first elected black governor, 1990. We were moving forward until the slime balls and the race hucksters realized that they were going to lose power. My God, if we don't have discrimination, we've got nothing. We don't have, our scam goes away. Let's make it up now. Incredible. But Douglas Wilder. Not a small thing to be elected governor of what was the former, and to sit in the former capital of the Confederate South. Not a small feat. Mother Teresa. I missed her yesterday, and so I've got yesterday and today, January 12th. She says, without a spirit of sacrifice, without a life of prayer, without an intimate attitude of penance, we would not be capable of carrying out our work. Well, nobody knew what it took to care for the poor and the forgotten than the great St. Teresa. And then for January 13th, she says, today it is very fashionable to talk about the poor. Unfortunately, it is not fashionable to talk with them. I would throw the homeless in there as well. The great St. Teresa, Mother Teresa, for this. By the way, somebody texted in. They said, speaking of, in today's letters to the editor, Scranton Times, a lady is now complaining that Groundhog Day tradition at Punxsutawney is sexist and bad because there are no women involved. These people are out of their minds. Yes, they are. And I think they're signing this FEM. It's insane. It's insane. I read the letter. And here's a quick thing. The inner circle is responsible for the traditions of Groundhog Day, and the members are men who wear top hats and tuxedos, creating an air of pageantry as they perform their duties. The inner circle, at its core, is a symbol of patriarchal power in a society that seems reluctant to embrace gender equality, even in frivolity and pageantry. Wow. Here's how she finishes. Will this year bring 6 more weeks of misogyny? No, you've just brought man-hatred and insanity to a cute little tradition. This is your left. They live among you. They live among you, and they are scary. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me 11:01. Time for the news with Brian Hughes. We'll be back. Great good morning, everyone. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 11:08. Well, let's amend that. I look at the sweep hand, it's 11:09 here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Tuesday, January 13, 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great senior care facilities under the banner of Serenity Care, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like the veterans we lost last year, but celebrate today, thanks to John, like Richard Dick Wilson Littitz, formerly of Elysburg, Dick Evans, Benton Township, Harry White, Leyda, North Carolina, but he was from Dallas, David Jordan, Laughlin, Carl Peters, Slocum, and Eugene Cadden, the magistrate, Bellevue section of Scranton. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle, gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that we will, because of our commitment to common sense, provide a sanctuary of sanity in a world where an entire political party, the Democrats, has gone insane, their entire leadership, and where the left and the establishment are trying to ruin your lives to better theirs. It's that simple. They've lost complete sense of what is real and what is not. It's an unbelievable thing. Bugs are checking in. He said he proudly considers himself as one of the huge family listeners I've created, you've created, saying to me, I'd pay admission to watch the brain of any dead trolls spew that listen and text the constant stupidity and headbanging nonsense they spew on a regular, painful basis. It's disturbing. It really is. And that's George Carlin. That George Carlin cut, I'm going to have to keep playing. Once you internalize lies and stupidity and defy fact, truth, and reality, and it becomes part of your persona, you're literally incapable because you've got it all on the line. You're incapable of making sense. It's sad, and we're seeing it. So he says, Bob, don't blame the welfare system, because I was. Don't blame poor people. Well, I didn't blame poor people. Blame an economic system that has transferred 90% of the wealth of our country to 3% at the top. All right, so here's the stupidity and willful ignorance writ large in a trite little statement. And this echoes what those stupid, idiotic fools were arguing against the 1%. What'd they call themselves? Wall Street, whatever. They're just another bunch of asses. By the way, the same people protesting now, okay? The capitalist system, which is basically economic freedom, has raised more people from poverty and created a higher standard of living than mankind has ever seen. All other systems, other than economic freedom, capitalism, have failed miserably, not only by comparison, but even objectively. So this battle against, and I want to say this, I want you to think about this. Because I was thinking about it a lot while I was on vacation. We went on a middle-class vacation. And, you think, well, it'd be nice if we had a private jet and we did whatever, all of that. So some people, in fact, a larger amount than anywhere on the planet, anywhere in history, have achieved that level of wealth. How does that hurt me? How does it hurt me? I did my thing. I enjoyed the weather in a beautiful place. I could drink a beer. I could afford a drink. I could afford a cigar. I see this jealousy bullspit, worrying about who has what. Worry about what you have. And if you could help others, help them. Worry about what they have. But people being wealthy not only doesn't harm anyone, it helps everyone. Their capital becomes available to invest in other businesses and opportunities, which creates the jobs which we live on. As disgusting as he is, George Soros, the majority shareholder of this company, or actually the largest, I wouldn't say majority. So I've got a job that pays me and allows me to live my life. What does it hurt me that Soros has more money than he should? As disgusting a human being as he is, he and his son, Alex. But so what? Their level of money, so what? And by the way, those are the people, sick, demented billionaires that are serving up and financing all of these protests of the left-wing stupids. The welfare system is a disgrace. It creates disincentives. It destroyed families. And I want to remind you of something that my great professor Jesse T. Moore pointed out when a typical liberal brought up about the poor black people. And Jesse was black. He said the majority of poor are not black, and the majority of blacks are not poor. You see, these are the simple facts that idiots overlook. I'm sorry if I'm being harsh on you, but you've got to wake the Christ up. Rich people don't harm anyone. They create more opportunities. Who's the carpenter when they build a ridiculous house? Who's the contractor? Who's the landscapers? No matter how they spend their money, and if they don't spend it, that investment money is available for everyone else, whether through a bank loan or some other method that finances a business. There's the opportunities in a free economy like ours. And by the way, the proof is in the pudding. You're ignoring what's right in front of your face. There are more opportunities. There are more chances. There are more jobs. All of that because of capitalism. And rich people are part of capitalism. They don't have any harm on you. It's not a zero-sum game. If somebody has, you don't. That's a jealous, stupid way to look at things. Yes, the welfare system set up incentives to break up the family, and it did. What a surprise. all of your left-wing lunacy, and I'm not talking about you specifically, all your left-wing lunacy has created misery wherever it is. How'd Venezuela work out? How'd Cuba work out? How'd the Soviet Union work out? How did the Eastern Bloc work out? How's China working out? Dear Lord, will you stop being so blatantly stupid and ignorant? This freedom, which is what capitalism is, economic freedom, has provided every opportunity for people who want to work, who don't want to whine, to provide for themselves and their families at a level that has never existed. Nothing even comes close, not even on the planet today, to what economic freedom has brought, the blessings it has brought. And rich people ain't the enemy. They didn't take money from me. They didn't take money from you. They didn't take money from the whiner down the street who wants socialism like stupid Bernie Sanders, that wants government intervention like idiot Mamdani. And the proof is rife all over the world wherever their plan has been tried. And the proof is on our side, that of economic freedom, right in front of your face. We'll be back. Heart. They released their hit, These Dreams, Murph says. This date, 1986. And before that, 2009. President-elect Barack Obama's nominee for Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, vowed during her Senate confirmation hearing to revitalize the mission of diplomacy in U.S. foreign policy. And the conflicts of the Clinton Foundation were brought to the fore. And man, did they beat that drum, baby. Hundreds of millions of dollars in contributions to influence the Secretary of State. It was guaranteed corruption. Guaranteed. And it happened. Whether it's Russian companies taking over America's uranium supply, 2/3 of it, or Bill Clinton getting $600,000 to speak for an hour in Russia. That nobody's ever used a foundation to that level of corruption like the Clintons. Nobody. Unbelievable. Hey, the argument's still going on regarding men and women's sports at the Supreme Court of the United States. By the way, I wanted to mention a decorated veteran by the name of Michael Boyle became the city police chief in Wilkes-Barre. Good luck, Godspeed. George Brown, the great mayor, swore him in yesterday. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right, here's a troll. Nobody's funding left-wing protests, you tinfoil-hatted wacko. People are genuinely fed up with the state of this administration. By the way, these two things could be true at once, I might say. Yes, you could be stupid enough to fool yourself that there's something to protest about, and you could get funded by left-wing lunatic billionaires and millionaires. And both of those things are sadly true. Dear Lord. Oh. Somebody else texts in, I don't know any poor person that has ever signed my paychecks. Yeah. You nailed it. You nailed it. Somebody else, back in the day, people were ashamed when they were pregnant before being married. Now it's a way of life for many. Multiple children with no fathers in their life at our expense. Welfare needs to be reorganized, says Cabinet Guy. Another says, absolutely correct, Bob, and LTS. I'm landscaping right now. And the guy I'm working for is not on welfare. He's a self-made entrepreneur who worked his ass off and received the blessings of hard work. As far as Ms. Good and her ilk, why aren't any of them out working? They're out protesting, and by the way, being paid to do it, protesting whatever their causes is for that particular day, bitching about their lot in life, but not doing anything about it except bitching. The New York Post had a story that the woman's mom has been paying her rent. She's unemployed, yet she's well-fed. Her children are in daycare, but capitalism sucks. Yeah, I know. Again, what is the primary characteristic? There's many. It's denial of fact, truth, and reality. A lack of self-awareness. That's what the left owns. They own it. They own it. And speaking of my man Mark from Hazleton, who is correct that Rush Limbaugh passed on the 12th of January. Was born on the 12th of January. He passed on the 17th of February, which we will honor. He says, he reminds us that Horatio Alger, the American author best known for his 19th century rags to riches novels, it's his birthday today, and we're acknowledging him. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, Horatio Alger. Stories that can only be found in America because of our economic freedom. Let's go quickly to Luciano before the bottom of the hour. Hey, Luciano.
Hello, Bob. Thank you for taking my call. I got two questions for you. Who did this? who deported over 3+ million migrants out of this country. He was in office for 8 years, and he was black.
Barack Obama.
Absolutely. He deported over 3.5 million migrants, illegals, in 8 years. How come the Democrats have a dyslexic problem when it comes to what the Democrats did for mass illegal invasion? How come they don't mention Donald Trump?
Because they're
Obama,
liars.
go ahead, please.
Because they live a lie. I don't know
And
why
Bob,
they choose to, but they choose to live a lie.
And my second question, I'm sure you're very astute about this and very intuitive about this. In about 15 days, that bill's going to come up again, the health bill. And you know what the Democrats are going to try to do? They're going to try to pull something. It's this. They're going to say, don't touch the sanctuary cities in this country. There's about 10 of them, including Philadelphia, my birth city, New York, Chicago, the usual suspects. And the Democrats are going to say, we're going to allow you, we're going to help work with you Republicans, and we're going to allow this. We're not going to stop the government, but you must give us federal funds for these 10 sanctuary cities throughout United States. Watch that. This is going to happen, not because I'm highly intelligent, because I have common sense and intuitive insight that the good Lord has given me. And I hope when you get one of these Republicans on the air, you mention that stand strong, stand tall, and don't give in to the Democrats. What they're planning to do in about 15 days is what I just mentioned. It's about 99% foolproof that that's what they're going to try to pull on the Republicans, Bob.
All right, my man. And then, by the way, the entire subsidization of Obamacare is the proof of its abject, complete failure. Thank you,
Take
man.
it easy, Bob.
All
Thank
right.
you.
We'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll come back with our Veterans Tribute. We'll come back with the weather brought to you by Montage. And then you at 570-883-0098 to call or to text. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you dutifully, respectfully, and patriotically by our friend John Basiliga and his great companies, including Serenity Care, the gold standard of senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania. Facilities in the Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units in Kingston and Mid-Valley. All 4 facilities completely redone, reimagined. They are perfect. The gold standard. Serenity Care. Richard Dick Evans. We lost him at age 67. Described as a Berwick-Offray worker who enjoyed hunting. He was from Benton. He died following a lengthy illness at Bloomsburg Hospital. He was born there. He and his wife, Darlene Hampton Evans, celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary last July 2nd. Graduate of Benton High School, and then he faithfully served his country and all of us in the U.S. Army National Guard for 22 years. He was employed by Datacom, where he met his wife, and then Berwick-Offray, where he was employed for more than 30 years. He retired in 2018. Member of the Berwick Salvation Army, the Shikshini American Legion, and the Benton VFW. He loved hunting and muzzle loading. He loved spending time at the cabin. He cherished spending time with his family and grandchildren, surviving in addition to his wife, Darlene, his 2 sons, 6 grandchildren, a number of siblings, and other family members. Dick Evans. Richard Dick Wilson. We lost him at age 94, December 18th last year. Longtime educator at Southern Columbia High School. He was from Lidditz, but formerly of Elysburg. After he graduated from college, Dick proudly served in the United States Army, 1953 to 1955. He went on to earn a master's degree in education and dedicated his professional life to teaching. He spent 30 years as an English and Spanish teacher at Southern Columbia High School, where he was known for his commitment to his students and his love of learning. Dick was married for 60 years to his beloved wife, Mary, until her passing in 2016. He's survived by his daughter, 2 daughters, a son, 10 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren. Tragically, in addition to his wife, he was preceded in death by his son, Richard Jr. Dick Wilson. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, and his great Serenity Care. Well, when I think weather, I hear that little sounder. I think weather. But when I think weather, I think Montage Mountain and what is going on at the mountain. And the Storm Tracker 16 forecast brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain Resort. From meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, mainly sunny with increasing clouds towards evening. High 45, 39 outside the studios right now. Perfect day to ski, tube, whatever, right? Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 33. Wednesday, cloudy with rain showers, changing over to snow showers by evening. Accumulations of 1 to 3 inches of snow possible on Wednesday. The high will be 45. Thursday, windy and colder, morning snow showers, 25. That's our weather, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain Resort. Think weather, think Montage. Murph reached deep for this. Deep but recent. January 13, 2016, Murph says 21 pilots moved up to number 3 with their hit Stressed Out. I was in prison and was able to avoid this song. And I've got to be honest, I wasn't even stressed out in there. It was just, oh, Lord. Well, we're back, and funny stuff, I'm telling you. You look at what these people do and what they think and how they think, and you've really got to be, I don't know, it's just confusing to me. Why would you want to think this way? And they have to lie. They have to lie to everybody. Chuck Schumer, oh, he's not the one. Trump should be ashamed of himself. He's done nothing about Maduro. He said that in his first term. Said nothing about Biden doing nothing about Maduro, including allowing him to get away with stealing the election, 2 elections, and going and begging to buy oil from this clown. Trump put him in a New York City prison. My word. You want to talk about night and day difference? Somebody said, Dear Bob ALTS, that was the best rant you've ever produced on this program. I thoroughly enjoy to keep up the great work. Well, you know, it's easy on our side. It's easy. Somebody says there was a story in the last week in New York Post that a Soros organization has donated $7.8 million to protest groups. Of course they have. Of course they have. Somebody texts in one of the trolls. The Clinton corruption reminds me of Trump pardoning anyone who's willing to pay for it. Well, you don't even, what do you just make that up? You just make it up. And by the way, I don't like Trump's hucksterism, and he's a huckster. And he always looking to make money. That's him. That's what he does. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Selling ties and whatever the cripes, watches. Somebody said, oh, do you want one of those Trump watches? I said, not on your life. But please, Trump lost money becoming president and then almost lost his freedom because of politics. And he came back to serve the country. And he's doing everything he said he would. You may hate it because you're demented, but it's the fact. All right, let's go to Jim from Hazleton. Jim, how are you?
Good, Bob. How are you doing today?
Great, thanks.
So I had to give you a call for the new year, and I was thinking, I was thinking about this whole DEI thing. Like I told Bulldog, I said, I wonder if Condoleezza Rice decided to run for president, what the Democrats would say. She's a woman and she's black, so I don't know if she's not black enough.
By the way,
does that matter for DEI? I don't know.
Jim, we already know because Barack Obama, who was excoriating black men who wanted to vote for Trump instead of Kamala, he went down to Virginia to campaign against an African American for governor.
I know, but if she was running against another woman, so that could cancel out.
They're phony liars. Yep.
I know, but I'm saying she ran against a woman, so I would have liked to see her run against a man down there, a Democrat man. I bet you that's the only reason they put her in to run against the I forget their names now, but they put her in to run against another woman that runs against a black woman, so they could say, "Hey, we were just wanting a woman." They were just wanting a woman. I don't, we're not getting that deep into DEI, but I mean, that's the thing. Is the DEI is DEI. You either want it all or you don't.
That's right.
That's what I don't understand. Like, if what if Kristi Noem was running?
No, she's not the right woman.
Or Pam Bondi, or one of the Trump women. They'd be like, wait a minute, that's not right. We can't have that because it's just not right.
Being a left winger and being a Democrat today is like playing Twister. Did you ever play Twister, Jim, when you were a kid?
Yeah.
And you had to, you were hoping you played with a pretty girl. But you had to twist your body all over the place to somehow. They're insane people. They are.
But if you take everything out of it, just everything, and you just go at face value when you're talking about the Democrats don't make any common sense, how could you argue that? If you want a woman president so bad, what if that woman just happened to be a Republican? What would you say to that? But DEI shouldn't matter. They're stroking the DEI drum. They're banging the crap out of that DEI drum 24/7. DEI. But when it's a Republican, wait a minute. We're not sure that DEI is for us right now.
Well, Jim,
we got to take a pause on that.
Happy New Year, my friend. Thank you.
Same to you. I had to take you out of your little lather earlier. I got to call and get you a good crack up every now and then. Make sure Nancy and Jason are still drinking the Kool-Aid. I think Jason runs.
They leave pictures of it here when they leave.
Oh, I'm sure. I think Jason's a Kool-Aid runner for Nancy.
He's a battered husband. He's a battered work husband. Stop it.
I know you can't talk bad about your coworker, and I'm not asking you to.
I love them, but they're insane people.
Right.
Yeah.
But we all know who wears the pants in a relationship there. If you ever watch the show, you know who runs. And speaking from experience, one time I managed to call the show. I actually got on the show, which is very rare because they don't take many calls. But she got me on and got me off as fast as she got me on, and she didn't want. This is a couple of years ago. She didn't want to debate anything. This is going back to the Steve Corbett days. Matter of fact, if I ever run into Steve Corbett, he owes me a tray of pizza because he lost a bet with me because I told him that Trump was going to beat Hillary and we bet a pizza on it. And
I see him often. He and his wife walk by my house virtually every day. I will tell him. Jim from Hazleton wants his pizza. I will tell him.
I don't know if he remembers that or not, but it would be funny. But we bet a pizza, and me and Steve. I used to call Steve's show all the time. I mean, he was a little lenient to the left, but he could have an intelligent.
He's a crazy man, but I love him. I love him.
Right. He was a little more open-minded than Nancy was. He was still drinking.
He's open-minded. Yep.
He was still drinking the Kool-Aid like Nancy, but he wasn't doubled up on it like Nancy is. She does double Kool-Aid, triple Kool-Aid.
We gotta go, Jim. Thanks, brother. Well, my Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me it's time for Bloomberg, which means that it's approaching 11:50. We'll do it on the dot. There it is, my sweep hand. We'll be back after that. Another day in paradise. I told the Bulldog we got to finish with that. Murph says it was the #1 hit this date, 1990. Bob Cordaro back with you on the eponymous program. And Brian Kelly, who we had on before, he made a suggestion, texted me. He said, in 2020, the reward for the capture of Maduro was $15 million, but it got increased to $50 million. He says, maybe you should start beating the drum that our brave soldiers should share in that. Man, I'm with you. The people on that operation should share the $50 million. Come on, Donald Trump. $50 million to the amazing people who pulled off that feat. I got some really detailed descriptions of weaponry and technology used in that interdiction. And I'm telling you, it's beyond impressive. It's mind-blowing. Big stuff. So if you're out there protesting against ICE, please remember you're fighting for Shrudan Favon, a Laotian illegal convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy and strong-arm sodomy of a girl who's had a deportation order out since 2018. Gay Young, a Laotian illegal, convicted of strong-arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and strangulation. Deportation order since 2012. That's who you're fighting for. You're really principled people. You really, man, you're doing the right thing. Somebody texted in this truth. They said, I would ask the trolls who were in favor of the Minneapolis protesters this. Why don't you have a few of your friends go and park their cars across the entrance to the state police barracks in Dunmore, blow your horns, and dance around for about 5 hours. And then when the police get an emergency call, just stand there and don't move. Impede their way out. I wonder what would happen to you. Also, consider the place where the police may be rushing may be to save your own family. Yeah, you stupid jerks, idiots, disgraceful people. Nothing good to say about them. Nothing. Nothing. Idiots acting on lies that they've somehow forced themselves to believe. Well, we don't fall for it here. We do tributes to people who actually served us, like our veterans. Harry White, late in North Carolina, but he was from Dallas. David Jordan Laughlin, Carl Peters Slocum, Eugene Cadden, the magistrate, Bellevue section of Scranton. Dick Wilson, Lidditz and Elysburg, and Dick Evans, Benton Township. Our great veterans today brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Guys, great being with you. You know that. The Sue Henry Show is next. The Rob O'Donnell Show after that. God willing, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning to go on the attack again for the American way. Have a great afternoon. Be well. But for now, I've got to gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. Adjourned.